being growth ready means that you have a hunger for what's next. A motivation, a drive. Whenever I've been growth ready, it's when I'm really hungry for it, when I know that I have the capacity to be doing it and I really want that because I always am ready to chase the things that I want.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Mellor, and welcome in to GrowthReady, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high-performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, I'm excited to welcome in Head of Community at Riverside, Kendall Breitman, who believes in the power of connection.
I will say, the power of these human connections, if anyone is listening to this and has a small business brand, go on user calls with people.
As a former high-profile political journalist turned global community manager, Kendall's growth journey encourages us to let go of our ideas of what growth should look like and do what's necessary instead to trust in ourselves enough that we are ready to face whatever comes with the choices that we make. Right before I welcome in our guest, I just wanted to remind you that by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show, you are making it easier for others to discover the show. So don't keep all these growth insights to yourself. Do your part in helping GrowthReady reach a wider audience so we can ensure as many people as possible understand what it takes to be growth ready. Help us grow by subscribing today. Hello there and welcome in to the most recent installment of the GrowthReady podcast. I am so excited for a number of different reasons and one very specifically unique reason for our guest joining us today. Kendall Breitman joins us, and as we will get to learn through your story and through this interview, what makes this interview, for me at least, so exciting is that we get to speak on the very platform that you, in fact, work with, in that of Riverside. But before we go into all of the good stuff that I know we're going to cover today, Kendall, I have to ask you the question that I ask everybody that joins us on the show, and that is, what does it mean to you to be growth ready?
For me, I think being growth ready means that you have a hunger for what's next. Just a motivation, a drive. I think that whenever I've been growth ready, it's been when I'm really hungry for it, when I know that I have the capacity to be doing it and I really want that because I always am ready to chase the things that I want.
So I love that immediately. So what jumps out to me is this idea of the initial hunger, the initial drive, as you put it. But you also mentioned the capacity piece too, which I think is intriguing because I hear this almost inner reflection or inner recognition, if you will, of someone who's it's not that I want it, it's that maybe I believe I'm capable of going after it as well. So walk me through a little bit of the psychology there of both the wanting, but also that recognition internally as well.
So weirdly, I'm initially thinking of your plate of food because I'm talking about hunger, and it's if it's not clear to have to go up and get a second helping, then why are you kind of getting up to do that is kind of what I mean. I find that when I professionally am feeling like I'm over capacity, I lose that hunger to take, it makes sense. I lose that hunger to take on more. And I think that once you have and also I think that there's also a difference if you're feeling fulfilled by the work that you're doing. If you're just at over capacity and it's work that you're not really fulfilled by, then you can have a hunger for something else. But I think that if you're growing in a role and kind of keeping the same career trajectory, I think that it's about having the hunger for it by also, I think part of that hunger for it means that you have the ability to desire something more. Just for me, I think that when there's so much going on, you're just working on trying to keep yourself from drowning, that you can't even have the ability to see okay, what's next? What can I do after this? So I think that's just, it might just be for me, but for me, that's definitely an aspect of it. I'm also someone that's not someone that's going to say, I'll take on more just to be taking on more. I am a person that like truly needs to feel like I have the capacity, the ability to do that before I'm just like, yes, put me in, coach, you know?
Yeah, it's gosh, I'm already drawn in a variety of different areas of where to go with this. But for me, I want to go to where you initially started with this metaphor of the plate of food. And I think the fact that you're even paying attention to the plate was my first thought, was because I think a lot of us, to some of the points that you made there, is that the pursuit of whatever this outcome is that we've decided, hey, this is where I'm going, this is what I want to achieve. We don't even pay attention to how much we put on our plate, what we put on our plate. We're just so obsessed potentially sometimes with this outcome, this result, this endeavor, whatever it might be. And what I'm hearing from you, at least, is that at least today, there is this sense of, I need to be somewhat cognizant of what is on my plate. Is what's on my plate really that satisfying? Is it what I want to be eating, or am I just eating it for the sake of eating it? And so, looking at your career as a whole, how did you learn that lesson?
That's actually like, until you just said that, I never thought about that. Like, I think that I used to be of a different mind. I used to be like, okay, this is where I want to be going, and I'm going to chase where I want to be going. I think that through my career experiences, now I'm at a place where I frankly don't know what is next and what the step after that is and what the step after that is. And I kind of found this beauty in not knowing that and seeing where my career takes me while having an idea of where I want it to go generally, and wanting to feel successful in what I'm doing and fulfilled. But I used to, and I'll talk about my profession that I used to be in, what I'm in now. But I used to be like, okay, this is the goal. And now I'm like, I'm realizing that careers can take you in such winding paths. And I'm a head of community now. I didn't even know that job had existed, let's say like 4 years ago. And now I am doing it. And so I've kind of just learned to let go of the idea of what I think that I want and let me like kind of follow my fulfillment. I think that I learned that because, and I kind of had mentioned that just now before a little bit, but so my background is in political journalism. I was like, I am going to be in it for life. I'm going to be a journalist. I'm going to be chasing down sources and working on TV production. That's what I'm going to be doing. And then through my life experiences, that's not been what I have continued to do. And I think like from that, I've kind of learned to go with the flow of it a little bit more and let go of this idea that I think that I left college with, saying, I'm going to go from this to that to this, and this is my career trajectory, to letting it all fall where it might. But I feel, I don't want to say letting it fall where it might, because it seems like I don't have agency in that. Like, still keeping my agency and pointing my career in the direction that I want it to go, but allowing myself to be open for different directions and answering what fulfills me.
Yeah. Again, I think we're going to be operating with a lot of metaphors today. You know, we've started with the plate and the food, and now I've got this image of a journey in a vehicle, and this idea
it could be a ship even.
Right, a ship. You know, we'll throw them all in, but the idea that the destination, just knowing to an extent what that destination could look like, and finding an element of comfort in that, to know that at any point, if we need to take different turns along the way, if we need to change the vehicle from a car to a plane to a boat, whatever it might be, that, you know, that this idea of letting go, I think, can, and I'm so glad that you just made that point. Like, we're not just completely relinquishing all agency, but at the same time, to let go is to understand that there are components of the journey that are out of our control, that we simply, by trying to predict them, we're almost setting ourselves up for the downside that comes with insisting upon almost predictability, if you will.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying to like the things that are out of your control. I'm saying that like the ability to decide, okay, in this moment, like, it's about having trust in yourself. I trust that I'm going to get to where I need to go and where I want to go. And I trust in my professional ability. I trust in who I am as a leader. But it's about, I think that what I've learned from my career journey is that when you box yourself into this is where I'm going and this is the direction I'm going and I'm dead set on that, you end up like kind of boxing in your life a little bit. Like you're saying, this is my journey, but it's about having trust in yourself by saying, okay, but actually in this moment of my life, I want to explore this. And in this moment of my life, I want to explore this. And having the path and not just, I'm not endorsing saying like, today I'm going to be in marketing and today I'm going to be in development. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that at different points in your life, different things are more important, and just kind of trusting that your career will go where it goes. I'll give like a little bit of background just because otherwise that I'm getting too like metaphorical. So I was a journalist for about a little over 10 years, and I was working with NBC and Bloomberg, and I loved it. I was doing political journalism. And then I met my wife, she wasn't my wife at the time. She was my girlfriend, but she lived abroad. And a lot of my career, my success was wrapped up in being a journalist. And especially at a time, it was right after Trump had been elected. And it was like feels like it's always a contentious time in politics, but it was a really contentious time in politics. And you have this whole like group of people that are telling you what you're doing is so amazing and so important. And so it becomes really easy to wrap yourself up in like, that's me, that's my identity, is this work. And so I was realizing that I really, my heart was kind of going away from journalism, going into like, what if I could move out of the country and have a whole new adventure and be with this person that I love? But I was being boxed in by like, no, but who I am is this job, What am I going to do abroad even? And then I ended up like taking the risk of deciding, okay, I'm going to try this and move somewhere and try out this new life. And maybe success in that moment isn't my job. Maybe it's learning a new language or like going to a new country, making friends, finding a new home, and like being that sure of myself that I can make it in another place. So then I left, I did that. I started a new career here, and I started as a content writer thinking, okay, journalism, content writing, that works. Did not like that. Stressed about the fact that where's my career going, and then started in community. And I would have never thought to do that. So that whole experience taught me that like by deciding this is where I'm going to be this big journalist in Washington, D.C., if I had followed that, I would have cut out so many different, very cool opportunities that I got to have in my life.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because when you come from that world of political journalism, you mentioned this earlier, this idea of the result, everything you're doing is caught up in a result. It's, did you get that big conversation? Were you able to post that article, whatever it is, whether it be MMDC, whether it be Bloomberg. I know you wrote with Politico at some point, worked with Politico at some point. So like these are flagship enterprises in the world of political journalism. And so to be associated with that, there's a sense of arrival in that too. Like you've arrived in that profession. You can now say, yeah, I absolutely belong here. And yet to have a moment where it be an individual such as your wife who's to come into your life to suddenly initiate some change in thought, some change in perspective around how do I see success? How do I see growth? How do I see and define what it is I actually want? And you said earlier too, this idea of trusting in yourself. And clearly those decisions require trust. For you to, because each one of these is a jump. Each one of these is some sort of a gamble. There's no guarantee on the back end, no matter how strong the network is or whatever it might be. You're leaving something where, like I said, you've arrived, and you're moving into an area where you're maybe less known, less established, whatever it might be. What did you have to know about yourself in order to have that trust, if you will, in yourself to step into these unknowns and these different worlds and these career changes?
I kind of had to know, I think for moving example, I knew that I had established myself enough in that world and made enough connections that if that didn't work out, I could always come back and continue to do journalism if that's what I wanted to do. Like I felt confident that this wasn't going to be, now I'm out and I'm never coming back. Then I left and I wasn't coming back. So that was fine. But that was a trust that I had in myself. The situations that I was getting myself in, I trusted that I knew how I'd be able to, like, that I'd be able to get out of them if I needed to, that I'd be able to try to make the best of things if I needed to. I think it was about trusting that no matter what those situations were going to be, that I was savvy enough to know where my next, like what my next move should be. And that I don't know, that I was going to be able to either thrive in it or decide that the next thing was, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I'm really trying to think.
And the reason I ask it is because to speak to having trust in oneself, I think sometimes people struggle with the bridge to get there. I think we hear people saying like, "Hey, trust in yourself," and it's like that's a great sentiment. It really is. But something I heard you say there, which I think is really important, is that you had a sense, you had a belief that you had some form of, let's say, an adaptive quality.
Yes.
Where if what you committed to wasn't necessarily what you thought it would be, or went a direction that you weren't comfortable with it going, you had those qualities to make a change, make a pivot, adapt, embrace, whatever it might be. And I think that is what I just heard there for you to sort of put further depth, if you will, into this notion of building that trust.
Yeah, and also that like every next step that you're doing, it's not irreversible. Like that's kind of what I needed to learn over time. Like, and a lot of these decisions that I was making seemed crazy. I mean, like imagine you're my friend in the situation. I'm like, I'm quitting NBC and I'm gonna go move in with this girl I met. Like it was nuts. Or like I'm gonna just, I mean, this is less nuts, but like I'm just gonna start doing community now. Like it was, but it's all stuff that like, it's all reverse. If I wanted to go back to being content writer, if I wanted to go back to the US and go back to journalism, I could always do that. And in the end, it just adds another fold into my career journey, my life journey. But this is not to say that like, oh, I just decided to do all this and had this trust in myself. That's watering it down a little bit too much. Like for me, that like from what I'm saying, I don't want it to seem like that. What I like, all of this also was after months of thinking about whether I wanted to do that. And then I'm the kind of person that like, then once I've decided I'm doing it, I'm doing it. Like I deliberate it in my head for a while and then I'm like, I'm moving. That's just how I've grown.
Yeah. And for me, sometimes I like the questions. Sometimes I like it when I ask questions that whether you answer it directly or more indirectly, we get to the heart of the answer at some point. And so for you to sort of know about yourself, it's like, hey, I'm someone that has to take my time in making the decision. But once I make the decision, I know because of the work I've done up to that point, I'm committed, I'm in, I'm not looking back, I'm only looking forwards. And I think that on a growth journey for anyone who's listening to this, they can take some form of a blueprint out of that, just to know that with growth comes change. With growth comes some pivots as we go through it. And this isn't whenever I have people on that talk about career changes and the work that they did into finding that alignment and the comfort with it, I'm always very clear, like this isn't our message to say, look at what you're doing and find something else to do. This is more about what are some of those lessons that we can take from where you were at that point in your career, and how someone can just simply say, hey, I'm really fulfilled in the work that I do today, but does that mean that I'm still unable to look at what it is I do from this perspective that Kendall's providing us right now? I think that's really important for anybody, just to kind of take stock and say, am I going down a path that I'm comfortable with? And is this one that I'm truly in alignment with right now?
Am I going down a path that I'm like comfortable with, or is this the path that I've decided however long ago that this is the path I'm going down? I think like actually to even amend the answer that I was saying, I think that there's hunger for being growth ready, but I also think that it's about openness to like that growth. The growth that you thought about 5 months ago might actually look different than the growth now that you want to do. Maybe you love certain parts of your job that you don't love other parts of your job. So what is it that you love and how can that translate to the next thing? And so I think that it's like about taking that next step, assessing where you are, saying, okay, what fulfills me? What doesn't? Where can that maybe like branch me off in this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I love that we have someone who's comfortable in the world of interviewing and journalism to go back and add to or further refine their response from earlier, because I think that's some people, but most of my guests are too, like once they've committed to the answer in that first question,
I'll like send you an email afterwards being like, what if we change it to openness? Yeah.
This is the flag I'm planning. This is my answer. This is what we're talking about. And but I love that you've come to that awareness as we talk through this, is that openness just to reflect, if you will, like to take that time and say, whatever growth looked like 6 months ago, there's almost a naivety to think that it's going to look the same 6 months later, it's going to look the same 1 year later, that to have that openness, as you said, to simply reflect. I think that's huge. But let's talk about this transition now, specifically towards the work you do at Riverside. I love how you put it before, because it was one of the first thoughts I had when I saw your title.
Like, how the hell
wow,
did you go from there to that?
Head of community. This sounds cool. Like, I don't really know what that is, but this sounds really, really cool. And so talk me through just some of that transition and some of the obviously the lessons that have come from the more you've discovered about what that role is. Yeah.
So like head of community, I always joke, it's like the ultimate people person job. So for me, I'm like very into it. Mm-hmm. So basically the idea is that everyone has a different definition of community. I think that a lot of tech and marketing companies like are really plugging into community right now. Mm-hmm. So basically the idea for me, how I see it, is that people connect to other people, especially online. And so when I'm using a product, the more human forward that like if I'm community, can put that product, the more that people can connect to it and relate to it and inspire love to it. So that's one way to look at it. Mm-hmm. The other thing, though, is that if I'm looking, I had a baby recently. Mm-hmm. And when I was looking for a stroller, for example, I am not looking at like what an influencer is posting as their stroller anymore. I'm asking my friends, what stroller did you get? What do you love about it? What do you not? And so that's also part of community, is building something that people feel connected to, that people want to share with their friends, that people want to invite people into. So that's kind of part of it. The other thing is that I think that products, the best ones right now, are the ones that are very plugged into who's using them. So for example, at Riverside, we are constantly doing community meetings with users to hear, if it's a marketing side, what are your goals? What do you love about what you do? What do you struggle with? If it's product, it's like, what features do you use? What do you wish there was more of? And all of that inspires what we're going to be building next and building toward. So I kind of sit at the center of it. So at one, I describe it as another metaphor here, as a bridge. So on one side, it's product to users. On the other side, it's users to product. So on the one side, product to users, it's communicating what new features are coming. It's, I want to make you a better creator. So I'm going to host webinars. I'm going to send you a newsletter. I'm going to create programs that are going to make you a stronger, more confident creator. On the other hand, it's users to product. So you have a feature request. I'm going to make sure that the people in this company know about it. You have a goal that you want. How can we be making it easier? Like, let's bring that in. So it's really just becoming kind of a forward-facing person for the company so that users can say, oh, this and that is happening. I want to speak about it with Kendall. You know what I mean? And that's very long-winded. It's hard to define. And I should, at this point, 3 years in, have a better definition of it. But it keeps growing. Like, it's just like, it's a very cool profession, because it's really just about talking to people and turning those insights into action for people.
I'm just so thankful that the first thing you did is you went straight to defining how you define community. I think that's huge for anyone listening to this, because it is one of those incredibly subjective words sometimes that we're not willing to necessarily acknowledge that it's subjective. We sort of just use it in conversation, assuming that the two people in conversation see community the same way. So for you to immediately lead with the person to person connection, that that it sounded as though that's where community, at least for you, must be anchored, if you will. Like we have to say, if we're not leading with this desire to connect people on some level, then in some way we're not really honoring at its essence what the community is.
Yes. And I actually I appreciate you saying that, because that's really what drives me in this. I think that if you treat community just as like, oh, here's a mass sending out of a swag box, that is something that communities do, but that's not really getting to the essence of what community is. I really learned, and I didn't realize this until recently, that I really do treat community based on my experience as a journalist. So I take a lot of my political journalism experience and apply it to community. So for example, part of my job as a journalist is everyone who's standing in line for, let's say, a rally for Hillary Clinton. I'm going to all the people in line saying hey, what's bringing you out here today? What's your most important issue? And then at the end of the day, I go home to my hotel room and I look at all those notes and I say, what's the story here? What's the report? What am I reporting on here? And I do the same thing with community. I'm meeting with people all the time. And then at the end saying, okay, Riverside, what's the story here? Is the next step for people that they want to find more ways to monetize? Yes. Okay. How can we help them do that? So that's really how that's a driving factor for me of how I do it.
Yeah. And before I go any further, by the way, congrats on becoming a mom. I didn't say that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't say, I heard you say it and I was like, I should acknowledge that.
Yeah.
The part that I heard there though, that I think is so important is there has to be while we connect people, there has to be something in it for the people as well. There have to be some sort of, hey, I'm here for a reason. I always think of it as the neighborhood that I live on, and we use terms like community in terms of where we live. And that for me, there's almost a falseness to that at times. I think we kind of use the term community way too relaxed in that regard, because the desire for people to connect. I can just speak from the perspective. I don't think any of my neighbors listen. I can speak from the perspective of living in my neighborhood, is that we're not going out of our way to connect, because really we don't have anything in this for each other aside from living in the house we live in. And then you think of community and how you're describing it. In some way, shape, or form, people have come into this community with an element of expectation. They've come into it saying that there has to be a specific benefit, and one of the biggest efforts that it sounds as though you have in mind at all times is, how do we ensure that that benefit is not only being met, but is being built upon at the same time?
Yes, absolutely. I completely get what you're saying with the neighborhood thing. I'm even thinking about my own building. I live in an apartment building. This is a random side note, but we have a parking lot under our building. And so it started with people just saying hey, does anyone have an open spot? My mom's coming, I need a, and then from there it builds to anyone have an egg? Or, hey, I'm going out of town this weekend. Is anyone able to water my plants? And then suddenly from this shared interest in wanting each other's parking spots, it's built into these real friendships and care for the people that you're in this apartment building community with.
Right.
Yeah. Shout out to my apartment building. No, I don't know if anyone's listening.
But for me, I love that you provided that insight too, because that's really reinforcing what it is we're discussing here. Is that at some point you have to go beyond something that's much more on the outside of the community, like a parking spot or just in need of an egg or whatever it is, and suddenly a connection forms, because at some point there's a connection that's been recognized. I have a reason to be in your life, you have a reason to be in my life, and we have some sort of mutual agreement and benefit of that investment now into one another, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say the power of these human connections, if anyone is listening to this and has a small business brand, go on user calls with people. My first month and a half, that's all I did. All I did every day was I scheduled calls with people, took 15, 30 minutes, depending on your time. and just would talk with them, just like, tell me about you. What do you do? How did you get into podcasting? And first, it really gives you an idea of who people are and like what drives them and what drives them to use your product. But then also the cool second part is that now you've made this real human connection. So the other day I was like, they wanted somebody to test out a feature. And I was like, oh, why doesn't John from that call love him? And I know he'd be down to do it and be excited about it. So I connect him and he's like, absolutely. Like we have this mutual connection. I think that people are really looking for that. I think that I was having the discussion the other day about social media and how like brand videos don't really perform as well now, these overproduced kinds of videos, because we now just want to watch videos of somebody that's like, here's this crazy story about what happened to me yesterday. And they're like walking to go get coffee. Like there's no production value at all in these. And it's because social media is built for people. It's not built for brands. Same thing, like as much as you can make yourself a person, there's so much value in that.
And I appreciate you saying this, because my next question was really going to be, how should we approach growing our own communities? I think that's it's a topic I was very excited to talk about with you today, because I think a lot of people listening to this do feel isolated on their growth journeys at times. I for one, and you don't realize how isolated you are at times until you sort of just lift your head up from the day-to-day and the work, and you go, oh, when was the last time I had that necessary human interaction? When was that last time I felt the need to pour into someone else the same way I maybe need someone to pour into me right now? And so you've given us an initial idea, but from an intentional standpoint, how would you suggest someone who is sitting listening to this right now and thinking, yeah, community's missing and I need to find a way to initiate it in my life?
Okay. It's really about putting yourself out there. And it seems so awkward at first. Like, conferences have been really great for me. So there's this podcast show in London, and I made all these new friends there. And then like we're talking to each other on LinkedIn all year. And then now I'm on a panel with a few of them coming up. Wow. So like it really, or even just like I went to a meetup yesterday with community managers, and it's just so refreshing to be in a room of people that get you and understand you. Posting on different groups or even being part of different groups. Like I am, speaking of being a mother, I'm on like these, I'm on these Facebook groups that are for mothers that had children the same time as me. And I'm not engaging at all in there, but just even like read the things that people are posting. I am just so community at my core. I love it. Like I think that it's cool to see how other people are interacting. I think that it's scary though, from your profile to post something in there, especially because you never know if it's going to like pop up on your friend's feed. So if you want to even just engage in a more anonymous way, just to start out, using Reddit, looking at different posts and engaging with people that way, posing a question there. So I would say in person is the best. But if you can't do that or aren't ready for that, then online communities.
I just hear this commitment to discovering relatability in your life, but through community, just what you were describing there, like even the inside of the Facebook group, which my wife is also part of many for moms.
I love them.
Yeah. I mean, I get to hear them second.
I was going to say, sometimes it's crazy story. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, listen to this person. I say to my wife, my wife is as you in this situation. I'll be like, you'll never believe what I read in this Facebook group the other day. But it's at least like, it's like fun to have this kind of relatability with other people.
But that's it. And you know, I think parenthood's a great example of that. And I think entrepreneurship's a great example of that. And even in the world that you operate in too, whether it be content, podcasting, however you want to put it, I think what I heard in that story of there was people you connected with in London is that on some level, initially, you were there for relatable reasons. You were there at something that you all had a shared interest in. And through that shared interest, a connection could be built. And I think all too often, in my world at least, when I think of executive coaching, like I work with executives sometimes who it's the CEO and no one can possibly understand what I'm going through is what I'm often met with. And it's like, have you given anyone the chance to understand what it is you go through? And that's really what I'm hearing at the heart of what you're sharing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this is going to sound crazy coming from somebody that works in community, but like down with networking. I hate the term networking only because I just think that it really sanitizes the whole thing. Like we're like, oh, I'm going to go network at a conference. Like, no, I want to go meet people that have the same interests as me. I want to go make some new friends. I don't know. But the idea of networking, it like almost inspires the term mingling for me, which I also don't love. But it's just, I think that it brands something that's supposed to be so human to becoming even like networking. It's like on its face kind of feels robotic, like internet network to me.
And if anything, it goes back to the heart of how you initially answered the first question. It's like, rarely are we going to be motivated to network, but we might be motivated to connect. We might be motivated to find a connection of some sort, or to be able to relate to someone in some way. And again, I think the very ambiguous nature of networking a lot of the times is what keeps people from it, quite frankly. It's just like you just go, oh, this idea of being in this big room and there's this and what do I say? And as opposed to where I've always found the most success in these so-called networking spaces is when I just identify with a handful of people and try to intentionally connect with them. And I come out of it with 3 or 4 people that's like, oh, wow, I didn't know them before. Now I do. Chances are we're going to connect after this. And I didn't see any of the 99% of the other people that were there. And that was a success for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it starts extremely awkward. I'm not going to say like, oh, you just walk in a room and you walk right up to somebody. But I've never left like an in-person thing and been like, I'm so mad I went to that. You know, I'm like, oh, that was really, I'm glad I met this person. That was cool. It's not like maybe every event isn't life-changing, but it feels kind of like refreshing. I also leave it feeling kind of proud of myself for putting myself out there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, something I definitely wanted to touch on today before we start to get to the end of this is I want to believe I'm one of the earlier adopters of Riverside because I'm one of the earlier adopters of the podcasting world. And so I was pretty much there when all the necessary milestones happened along the way. And for me to be the beneficiary, obviously, of the product is wonderful. But at the same time, now that I have you on the call and us having this discussion, I want to really understand. Let's take now what you said and how you answered the initial question around GrowthReady and the hunger, the motivation, the drive. When you look at not only your role, but maybe just Riverside as a whole in the space that you're operating in, like where are you now most hungry? Where are you now most motivated for what's potentially still out there in terms of how the company as a whole can potentially grow?
So I think that right now, so I was just, my hunger has recently led to that I was promoted from community lead to now head of community. So excited about that. Yeah. I think that as far as where Riverside's at, I would say that what I'm hungry for is that I think that there are so many different really cool things that you could do with Riverside that people don't realize. So for example, we have a lot of people who are podcasters, and then they'll say, oh, I created a course. You'd be like, oh, what'd you create the course on? They're like, Zoom. Like, why? You have Riverside. And I think, or meetings, when people like not recording the meetings and having the transcripts, having marketers be able to send people links to Riverside and have them create UGC that way or get client testimonials. Like there's so many cool different use cases. And I'm excited to kind of expand what the community has meant to me as being content creators and podcasters to maybe course creators, maybe marketers, just speaking to completely new people about what the product can do. Then personally, I will say that where I'm excited about kind of where I'm going next and where I want to grow is I want to grow my own influence in the space. So for example, speaking at the podcast show, I started a newsletter. Like I want to work on showing up for myself in, for example, LinkedIn, in in-person events, and just really work my way up of being a real person in the space, a person who has impact in the space. And so, yeah, that's just like my own personal goal is that's where I want to go next. And I want to be dedicated to trying that out. And then this is going to be shocking for my personal one. but starting a podcast.
Whoa.
Yeah. A personal one. I mean, also doing one for Riverside, but I really like commend everybody because I was just talking about diving into things and knowing that it'll be fine. But then with podcasting, it's been moving, then it's been starting community or going into community. And now for me, I feel like what's the next kind of hunger thing for me that's knocking at me is doing my own kind of personal passion podcast.
I love that. I love that. And I can't
I mean, I have Riverside. I should be able to do it.
Right.
It's about jumping over that other, like the psychological hurdle more.
100%. And I love that it doesn't happen a lot, but when our guests come on and they're in the midst of one of those bridges that they're currently in the process of crossing and getting over, we've got to get a couple more metaphors in before we're done.
Yeah. Sailing.
We're sailing around the corner.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Exactly.
But the idea that you are, from what I'm being able to, I think, interpret just through this conversation, like as you put yourself more and more into this very community, that both the one that you've created for Riverside and also the one that you've created for yourself, you're starting to see where there is potential for impact. I think you said that word, impact. And so for me, I'm curious, just my last question has to be, when you say something like impact, Kendall, like how would you define that at this point in your journey? Like what would you say you're searching for or trying to achieve when you say, I'm trying to achieve impact?
I want to feel like what I'm doing is, it's hard. That's interesting. What do I mean by impact? I want to feel like what I'm doing is actually making a difference for people, or making a difference for the community, whether that's making it so that they get the features that they want, or that they are able to do more. Because a lot of the people in this community are doing this because it's something that they're passionate about. So it's very cool to be able to, like, I'm not solving an issue where it's like, just another day of something that I have to work with. Like, people are doing this because they're passionate about it. So it's really fun and really fulfilling to like help them deliver on that, to help them be able to make their podcast or content or whatever they're making on it. I think for me, as far as impact, is that like I just feel fulfilled when I feel like something that I'm doing is like, I don't know, like I'm achieving something. Like it's hard to define, but yeah, that's a very interesting question. And I hate that I don't have as much of a direct answer for that if that's the last question. So
that's just it. Well, that's
so
just
leave it there, open ended.
I love it, and the coach in me can't help but want to always learn what you mean by the use of a certain word, just because I think again that's another takeaway for, and it's why I just adore where we're ending, because for you to be in the midst of figuring out this hurdle, if you will, that you're jumping to go and get into the podcasting world yourself, and to be identifying what impact will look like on the back end. I think our listeners can now hear that and say, if I'm using certain terminology as part of my reason and my endeavor for doing what it is I'm trying to do, what does that mean to me? You know, and I think I think you answered it pretty well, even though you may not give yourself the credit. But I would say that idea of feeling as though what you're doing is serving a specific community, is serving a specific impact, as you say,
or serving myself
and serving yourself,
like
right.
serving, like fulfilling myself too. Yeah, I think that can also be impactful. Of like, do I go home at the end of the day and feel great about what I did that day? I think that that's impactful too. Okay. Now I'm just thinking with you in real time about definitions of things.
I'm very used to external processing, so it's wonderful. It's a good place to be. But Kendall, listen, this has been such a pleasure. I'm so thankful that we could do this. And again, you have a very happy customer in me, and I'm glad that we've been able to spend even a little time just to speak about Riverside and even talk about some of the potential that's out there in terms of the product itself, how people could be using it. I have no doubt we have one or two people listening who aren't in the podcasting world that have now had their attention drawn to, what else can this do for me? So
yeah, a lot.
Before I let you go, where can we learn more? Firstly, seeing as you're going to be putting more content out and putting yourself out there more in this world,
yes,
where can we
hold
learn more
me accountable.
Yeah.
You could find me on LinkedIn, Kendall Breitman. You'll see the spelling in this episode. And if you are part of the content creation community, we have a Facebook group. It's called Conversation Creators by Riverside. You'll see a lot of me there. And that's where we also have almost 30,000 creators now that are really helping support each other, answering each other's questions, just kind of cheering each other on. So if you're part of that industry, then highly recommend also going there.
Awesome. Well, I am not part of that community. So what have I been doing? I don't know. What's
where
that
have you
about.
been?
Where have I been?
Come on.
Where have I been? That's my homework. But Kendall, again, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the generosity of insights, and just best of luck with all the newness. You have lots of new in your world from what I'm hearing. And so
I do.
all the best with that.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. This was really a lot of fun.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.